Hello, everyone, and welcome to another kind of impromptu Toonkind at 12 FPS called Kids These Days. My name is Wick, and I am joined by two lovely individuals today. Mind introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Avi, and I'm playing Arata, who is trying not to freak out in an alleyway.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Mira. I will be playing Sammy Jax, who is not currently aware of the shenanigans going on in the alley, but is extremely confused about what the hell has been happening with things because he's had an interesting few days.
I can imagine. so, and actually, that is where we are going to start. Sammy, you somehow find yourself on the streets yet again. Your feet kind of just leading you somewhere. Um, it's kind of dark-ish because it's getting late in the evening. Shops are closing up. Um, and do you mind making a perception check?
Okay, perception is just double check. Yep, it's a +4.
You're nuts and bolts.
Pick! Well, I got a 9.
Okay. Um. So, yeah, you're just. God, I'm sorry. Um, you're just kind of walking along the street. Um, it is kind of dark, so it's kind of getting tough to identify buildings and whatnot. But up ahead, you kind of see a shop still lit up, uh, and you can detect just the faintest smell of. Is that curry? Um, what are you thinking?
Uh, Sammy kind of just glances at all of the other shops that have clearly been closed for a while because late, and he just kind of like his shading kind of turns a bit gray because he's been in this kind of area before, and he knows that that place should be closed by now, and so he's gonna walk over just to like make sure that everything's okay.
Uh,
Because he has a
Okay.
friend who works there.
yeah, the last the last FPS, Arata did turn the sign to close, and he was going to go back in, to like finish like actually closing up shop and like cleaning everything, but the lights are still on despite the sign being closed, and the I don't know if you like actually look inside, but Arata's not at the counter.
Yeah, his shading turns from gray to like gray tinged with a light purple. You can't see it, but he's kind of like worrying at the bottom of his lip underneath his mask, and he's just like, okay, what's going on? Because, that's sus. That's sus. Sammy's had enough experiences in his life where he's like, oh, that's sus. I don't like that.
I've seen too
Forgetting
much to know where this is going.
forgetting that Arata is not really a tune, so doesn't follow the logic of tune logic where, oh, something's out of place. Hmm. He feels like, oh, this is sus. Because he's firmly placed Arata into the category of safe and good, and sometimes he forgets that Arata's not really a tune.
Well, while you are at the door, you were kind of just peering in, but you don't really see anybody. And that the close sign's up, but the lights are still on. It definitely seems suspicious. Do you mind making another perception check, but with advantage this time?
Okay. Oh,
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 he
I'm so
needs
glad
it.
for that. I am so glad for that. Please, dice for. Aha!
Yeah!
Dice booster, thank you! Don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. I got a dirty 23 on advantage, Pecker.
Yeah, you show him. um, while you're there, um, you had noticed on your way over that there had been an alleyway nearby, and as you take a step back from the door, you hear faint whispering, like these kind of low voices coming from the alleyway nearby.
Sammy has had so many bad experiences in alleyways, but he's going to investigate because this could potentially be one of his friends in trouble. So he's gonna go in.
Yeah, we going in.
Sammy's going
Um,
in. Uh, Arata's there, crouched to make himself look small, and like Genie's on his shoulders.
uh, Now, when you get into like the alleyway, Sammy,
Mhm.
you do see Arata crouched down, but you're looking from behind him, so he's kind of blocking whoever he's supposed to be talking to. It looks a little weird.
Sammy kind of pauses and he just kind of calls out, Arata, is everything okay?
Two heads turn to look to you. Uh, Genie uh, hops off of Arata's shoulders just to like give some space, and then Arata turns and he goes, Sammy, you won't believe the kind of night I've been having.
Sammy just kind of blink, blink, blink. Uh huh.
And Arata kind of just scoots to the side a little bit to like show Sammy who he's with.
And you see, it is little Bevin, who is kind of just looking off to the side a bit and fidgeting with their skirt. They seem to have looked a little upset, but now they look kind of like they're calming down a little.
Oh, hey, Bev. You guys doing okay?
Bev looks up and goes, Sammy, what what are you doing here?
I was walking and then I noticed that the inn was still on when
Ah,
it should be
shoot, I forgot to
closed.
turn off the lights. Damn it.
And I got concerned, and then I heard talking in the alley, so I got even more concerned because, in my experience, alleyways do not lead to good things.
Errata kind of just grimaces.
Bev just kind of nods, like, yeah, that makes sense.
um,
um, Go ahead.
I don't even know what Errata was going to say. Go.
Bev looks from Sammy to Arata, uh, looks at the two of them, and, and says, um, Arata,
Yeah.
maybe you should go turn off the lights if it's closed.
I. Yeah. Do you want some hot chocolate while I'm there?
Uh, Bevan like perks up a little, but then kind of dials it back. Um, no, I'm okay. Um, it's kind of late anyway. And they fidget again, with the hem of their skirt.
Errata just nods. Bevin, Jeannie's gonna walk up to you and just kind of like keep you company.
And Bev just kind of just crouches just a little bit. They're already short, but and they're just like, oh, hi, hi again. And they reach out a little hand. They want to pet them, but
Uh,
they aren't so sure.
Jeannie's just gonna do that like affectionate headbutt into the hand thing.
And Bev's eyes just kind of sparkle a little, like, again, yeah.
But like while that's happening, Arata just kind of stands up and straightens, like brushes off his jeans, and he looks to Sammy and he goes, "Can you keep an eye on Bev while I go turn out the lights?"
Of course. And Sammy kind of like walks up to where like Arata had been standing, and he kind of it's his turn to kind of do the whole entire crouch thing and stuff. And he's just like, "Hey, Bev, haven't seen you in a bit. You doing okay?"
Um, Bev kind of just uh, looks at Sammy, looks away for a moment, and then kind of looks back at them. They're trying to figure out what to say for just a moment. And you mind rolling insight?
Yep. Dice Parser, please be nice to me. 19. Thank you, Dice Parser.
All right. Good. Um, uh, Bev looks just a little to the side of. You can notice they're not looking directly at you, but just slightly to the left. And they say, I'm doing okay. But you can tell that's not quite the truth.
Considering Arata was crouched talking to Bevin in an alleyway, yeah, no, Sammy doesn't think that they're really okay. And he kind of just, his eyes softly crinkle at Bevin, and he kind of just leans forward a little, and he's like, "Hey, Bev, when Arata gets back, do you want to see something cool?"
Um, well,
It's a place. A secret place.
hey, I know a secret place. And they look excited, and then they're like, oh, wait, if I tell, then it's not secret. But it could still be secret for you guys.
I love Bevin so much.
Then he kind of reaches up and taps the side of his nose and is like, "I promise I won't tell your secret place if you don't tell my secret place."
Deal. And they seem to have perked up a little, like, ooh, secrets, yeah.
We can have a little secret place club.
Arata doesn't have a secret place, he just has the end. But he does come back. You probably do hear like a soft, like distant click and then a jingle as the door closes. And Arata comes back over. He's brought his bag with him just because. I'm just gonna give him his bag. And he doesn't have hot chocolate, but he does have like a handful of chocolate coins because he knows that Bevin likes those, and he hands off like 2 or 3 to Bevin, and he holds out a couple more for Sammy to take.
Sammy will take them, and his eyes crinkle even more, and he's just like, "Thanks, Arata."
Yeah.
So, the alley's not exactly the best place, I think, to have any kind of conversation.
Oh no, you're right.
Really?
So, how about I take you to one of the shrines I've been taking care of?
A shrine?
Mm-hmm. I am a cleric, after all.
Oh,
What? Arata kind of makes, I don't know what kind of face he would make. It would look um his brow, one brow goes upwards, and he goes I don't think I know what god or pantheon you're a cleric of.
Prismatone. She's the goddess of character and voice. She helped.
Arata lets out like the softest gasp, like, oh wait. And
Sammy looks at Arata and like his shading has shifted from like a gray tinged with purple to kind of a light yellow, and he's like, "You know her?"
sorta. I mean, I'm not really like I guess I'm not religious, but a while back somebody needed help finding an old Prismatone temple, so I lended a hand.
Sammy's eyes go wide, and he kind of leans forward, and he's just like, "They did? They? You helped Prismatone, but
Yeah, yeah.
Jay, I know Jay told me that there were more of us, but there's hardly any in Toontown. And do you remember their name at all?
I think it was Tessa.
Tessa. Tessa. Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
And Arata doesn't even have to roll for this. Sammy looks so hopeful at the fact that there's more people like him out there.
Arata kind of just has like a soft grin on his face at that. Uh, for two reasons, but we'll get to that later.
And like also like Sammy like also turns to Arata and is just like, I'm not gonna preach to you about Prismatone. She's helped me a lot, but we're big on choice, and if you're not religious, that's completely fine. Gods are just people too.
Ooh. How does Arata react to that? Arata just kind of rubs the back of his neck, and he just goes like, "Yeah, I get that. Do you want to roll insight real quick?"
Let's see if Sammy's. Oh, another 19.
Okay, yeah.
Wait.
Arata's had personal experience with God or a godlike entity. It wasn't a good one.
Sammy's eyes soften, and he just kind of reaches over and pats Arata because he really isn't gonna preach at Arata. Prismatone is good, but he's not gonna force religion on any of his friends. And he's just like, it's okay not to trust them.
Meanwhile, the whole time, Bevin's just been looking from Arata to Sammy to Arata to Sammy. Like, oh, they're just like, they have this look on their face like, who is, hmm.
I
uh,
I mean, I at least have a good impression with a good first impression with Prismatone, so I'm not opposed to
it,
heading over to the shrine. I mean,
Sammy kind of like his eyes are still like really soft and crinkled as he looks at you, Arata, and he just kind of nods and he's just like, I mainly just want to show you guys the garden I've been working on.
your
And he kind of
garden.
laughs. And then he looks at Bev and he's just like, sorry, Bev, but there's some really cool flowers I think you'd like.
And and again, Bev's face just kind of lights up like, oh, flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I do like flowers.
Yeah, these
Um,
ones are really cool. And like then he kind of like opens up his arms, like inviting Bevin to kind of like just hop up. into his arms because Bev is so cute and small, and Sammy wants to carry. But he's also not gonna just scoop up Bevin because that's rude.
And Bev actually hesitates for a moment, kind of looking Sammy up and down, but then gives a little smile and lifts their arms up like, yeah, I do want to be picked up.
Oh, Bev, I love you so much. And Sammy scoops Bevin up and then just gives him a quick hug in his arms, real quick, and is just like, okay, let's go to this shrine, and we can make flower crowns while we talk. Because
Okay.
Arata, it looks like you need to like ramble a lot.
God, you don't know.
Like Sammy kind of like wobbles his head a little, and he's like, "I've had a few interesting days, and but I do need to talk to you as well."
Well,
I
guess
guess
we all need to talk.
we're gonna have a jam session over some flowers. Nice.
Mhm.
Come on, Genie. And then he holds out his arms for Genie, and Genie does this like really quick maneuver where he jumps into Arata's arms and then goes over his shoulder and into the bag.
Oh.
Sammy's just like, "Oh, that's so cool. Cats are cool."
You just see a little cat head poking out of the bag.
Oh. So,
Okay.
guessing the three of you are now making your way out of this kind of dim, kind of shady alley.
Yep. And
Back out onto the sidewalk.
yep. And as we're all walking, Arata, Bevin, do you guys want to make perception checks?
Yes. Don't mind if I do.
Sure.
Where is your perception?
Yeah, where is my perception? Oh, right. I made it very easy. This
Arata,
kid.
why do you keep critting
Oh, I
the
did it in the nuts and
perception?
bolts again.
Okay, Arata just
Beautiful.
successed another perception roll.
Okay, Bevin, you're kind of just busy looking kind of over Sammy's shoulder uh at Jeannie, who is being utterly so cute in Arata's backpack. So
Oh.
you're not really paying attention. Oh, sorry, you're not paying attention to the your surroundings and stuff as Sammy's walking and carrying you. But Arata, you notice almost immediately as you guys are walking. There are still a few people out on the streets at night, just because it's Toontown. There is still a nightlife, even if it's a little bit less and stuff. But there is this really strange moment where you walk across the street into the next block over, and it is like you're entering an entirely different city altogether. The entire atmosphere changes into something of utter stillness and silence. There is no one on the streets. All of the shops, all of these places that you would expect to be bustling with people or being upkept and normal like the rest of Toontown isn't. You see all of these really run-down shops with boarded up windows and broken glass in some of them behind the boarded up windows. And it is so eerie almost. But Sammy doesn't seem to notice as he walks you guys to an abandoned theater that has the lettering on the little signs that would usually display what is what is being played are completely worn off as if time itself had tried to scrub it out. And you realize that Toontown has been trying to forget this place. Something happened here and you don't know what, but Sammy seems utterly comfortable and in his element over here. And he leads you guys into an alley where there is a
No.
basically like a slot where you can see a garden that is well taken care of. And Sammy ducks inside with Bevin. What do you do?
All right. All right. Sammy and Bevin are inside the theater. Was it?
The basically Sammy led you into the back entrance where it's basically a yard behind the theater.
Okay. That roll I just got, that was a deception roll to see if Arata could cover up how he's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because you described this place as Toontown's been trying to forget this place, and the moment that realization hits him, Arata just kind of shifts uncomfortably
Mm-hmm.
and fidgets with the cuffs of his sleeves. But that was a 10. You're free to roll insight if you want, but Arata does. Um, oh, sorry, Sammy. Arata does follow in. Again, he's a rogue.
Mm-hmm.
He,
And I will say, especially since it's you got a nat 20 on perception, as soon as you enter the space that Sammy's led you into, the feeling utterly changes from being forgotten to being remembered and cherished. Because this is a garden Sammy has spent so much time and effort in. It is extremely, extremely lush with flowers and well tended garden beds, and there is a fountain that depicts the familiar figure of Prismatone to you, Arata. Because I assume that Arata has seen a statue of Prismatone
yeah.
before.
The sudden tonal shift. He does let out a breath, like in awe, and he looks around at the garden, and he's like kind of smiling to himself, but like he looks up at the the prismatone statue, and he just kind of murmurs, "Hello again, miss." And he looks around at like all the flower beds and everything, and he just goes, "Sammy, have you been taking care of this place by yourself?"
Sammy looks back and he kind of just nods. Mm-hmm. I've been working on trying to restore a few of the other shrines around here too. Everybody forgot her.
That it's just terrible.
Bevin's just been watching the whole time. That they noticed how uncomfortable Arata looked, even though earlier.
Yeah.
Um, but they also kind of they're just kind of taking it all in. They've never been here before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot.
And you both notice that there are some flowers that are kind of growing in vines along the trees that are they look like roses if roses would grow on vines, and they're glowing. This really pretty mix of pink and gold.
Hatsumi's gonna love this.
And Bevin now is just staring at those flowers like, those are really pretty.
And like they're all kind of like scattered all around the courtyard area, so there's light. It's lit by these glowing flowers. And Sammy sets Bevin down and he's walking over to some of the vines there and he starts like pulling down some of them because he is going to make some flower crowns out of these flowers.
Um, Wait, where have you set Bevin down?
Basically like down kind of in the grassy area and stuff. Like kind of like in the middle area. Sammy's kind of over on like the left side pulling down some vines and stuff and like ahead of Bevin is the fountain that they can investigate if they would like.
Well, I mean, when you put it that way, I mean, oh, I suppose. Here, why not?
Go ahead and roll me an investigation.
Oh,
Oh, roll
no.
again. Roll again.
Oh, no, I have a plan if you want. You want me to roll or?
Oh, if you have something to take in that nat one, then yeah. Okay.
Arata gets
Okay.
13. Oh, that's
Well,
amazing.
Bevin has just been set on some grass
Mm-hmm.
and just, it feels really nice. It kind of just hits them that, man, they're kind of tired. And they just kind of lay back and just start like you go to like you're going to make a snow angel, but instead you're just kind of pushing the grass around a bit with your arms, and it feels really nice.
Oh,
Oh,
I love you
Bevin.
so much.
So yeah, Bev's not paying attention.
Yeah, Arata's like doing like a kind of a lap. Um, he's just going around trying to look at everything. I I teased about this in a drawing once, but Arata did work part-time at a florist,
Mm-hmm.
but something I don't think is going to come up unless I just say it outright. Arata's one of Arata's closest friends also gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
continue. No, continue. I want you to finish your thought.
Like, and her whole thing is vegetable garden, but
Mm-hmm.
he knows that she likes to grow things, and he's just, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Arata, as you laugh, you are kind of close to the fountain with Prismatone's statue, and you notice that there are some water lilies that are growing, that are kind of floating in the fountain a little, like not too many and stuff. It looks like Sammy had recently transplanted a few of them into the fountain, and as your laugh leaves your mouth, um, they're the lilies are completely black, and they glimmer with the pattern of your voice as it laughs, as it reflects the type of your voice, your vocal pattern.
Arata tilts his head and he says, um, the temple I was at, that the stonework did that too.
Oh, that kind of sounds like some of the stone that's in one of the shrines at one of the parks around Toontown. Sammy says, and like he's like wiggling a little because there's I'm hearing more about Prismatone's things. I've had like tiny little glimpses in these shrines, and oh, his shading is very yellow as he is uh talking. Like he's just like, Arata, you don't even need to roll. Like Sammy's trying hard not to squeal because he's so excited to hear about other places that he hasn't been to that are dedicated to Prismatone because this boy loves Prismatone so much.
Oh,
And
What a good boy.
he finishes pulling down some of the vines with these glowing roses, and he turns around to look at Bevin, and he kind of also Arata, you don't need to roll for this. You see Sammy soften so much to see Bevin just basically making a grass angel in the grass.
And
And
oh, go ahead.
Sammy's gonna walk over to Bevin and put the flowers kind of next down to him and sits next to Bevin, like not close enough that Bevin will like smack his knee and like ruin the little grass angels that they're making and stuff. And it starts weaving a little crown together from the vines and the flowers.
And as you take a look over at Bevan, do you mind making an investigation check?
Wait, you said Bevin.
Yeah, as you're looking at Bevan.
Okay, okay. Okay, investigation is +1. That's a 6. Oh,
Ah,
Sammy, buddy.
oh boy. I mean, roll it again. You're right next to them. I just wanted to see what you pick up.
That's fair. Okay, dice buster, please.
That's
A
a
dirty 20.
modified 20.
Nice. Me, give advantage. You just freaking aces it. uh, so, as you look at Bevan, now that you're in a nice lighted area, you were kind of more concentrating on getting to this place when you were carrying Bev, but now you're getting a good look at them, and they look kind of rough, actually. You're starting to notice, like, just like a couple nicks or scratches, like, kind of on their arms. Their tights just look like a little, like, dusty, or maybe that's mud. Same as their shoes. Um, their skirt looks a little worn out. It kind of looks like this kid's kind of just been, I guess, traveling a lot. And
Well,
they kind of start slowing down their grass angel making and then just kind of lay there like it's nice to rest for a moment.
mhm.
And I think while this is happening, Arata finally makes his way over to the other two and he sits off to the side and Genie hops out of his bag again.
Sammy's gonna set aside the crown that he's making and he's gonna roll hammer space and he pulls out a little well, not a little, he pulls out a picnic basket.
It's just straight up. Nice.
Nice.
And he opens up the picnic basket and he takes out a red and white checkered cloth from inside and kind of just unfurls it and puts it down and then he sits on one of the corners and then just kind of gestures for both Bevin and Arata to come and sit down next to him or on the blanket.
Yeah,
Um,
Arata's gonna move over.
Devin has had their eyes closed, but they heard the rustling and, they opened them back up. And their face is like, whoa, what? A, a picnic? And they get up a little bit, like, what?
Yeah. And Sammy, Glorps does not specify what the command word is for the perfect picnic basket, so I'm
Oh,
going to just make up one for Sammy's picnic basket, and he's going to say "Itadakimasu,"
oh,
and he
I'm
pulls out
sure.
he pulls out just like a nice spread for some food, and it just so happens to be like whatever you guys think you guys would appreciate for food and stuff. Like there's like probably some sandwiches, some other stuff, like just really nice, comfy food for a nice conversation to have in a garden when you're about to be talking about some heavy topics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Arata does appreciate it, and he's just thanks. And
Oh, and there's also drinks. You cannot have a meal without drinks. There's like probably a pitcher of like lemonade or something, some water probably. Like I am very adamant that food is best to be eaten with some kind of beverage.
oh
Yes,
yeah,
beverage, good. Uh, Ev looks pretty excited. They see all this food, but they sit down as neatly and politely as they can. Um, oh,
Oh.
uh,
uh,
um, and they and they they just take a look at everything, um, and they very carefully, um, like take a small piece of sandwich and take a little nibble,
Hmm.
and they give a small smile, and they're like, "Hey, this is pretty good."
Sammy smiles and he looks at Arata and he's just like, oh, actually, before he does that, he looks at both Arata and Bevin and then at Prismatone and he takes a breath and then he pulls back his hood and then tugs down his mask because if he's going to be talking to two friends of his that he trusts about potentially heavy things, he wants to do it with everything kind of just laid out. So, Bevin, Arata, for the first time since you've known Sammy, you see his face clearly, and he looks concerned. And he looks at both of you, and he's just, what happened tonight?
Um,
well, Arata
when you go ahead.
Arata looks really stressed out, man.
Oh no.
Like you don't need an insight for that.
Bev looked uh, just kind of odd and uh, even just like a little excited when you had taken your mask and your hood down. Like, whoa, I hadn't seen that before. Like,
Yeah, Arata thinks
Mm.
it's
I just thought
really
that was part
neat.
of your face.
Arata thinks that's really neat. Goddamn rainbow hair.
But as soon as they registered your concerned expression, their smile kind of fades a bit. And they kind of look back down, uh, kind of into their lap where they're holding a piece of the sandwich.
Hmm. Sammy looks at Arata, and he's like, Arata, you said that you had a crazy night. What happened?
Okay, this is the part where me, Avi, say that I re-listened to the FPS twice, and there's definitely going to be some things that I missed. Um, but I do
Oh,
want
yeah.
to say that Arata is going to try and like tell them everything that happened.
Hmm.
Um, but Arata Arata takes a deep breath, and again, you don't need an insight check to see that he is stressed out, and he seems a lot more thoughtful than you've ever seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Arata has a serious case of the silent protag syndrome, so sometimes he'll just be quiet. But like, this is very contemplative silence, and he he takes a breath and he goes, Sammy, has Bevin ever told you about their troop?
A little. He turns to Bev and he's just like, Bev, you told me that you'd gotten separated from them, right? Like you you were with them and then you weren't.
Bev just nods, not taking their eyes off of the sandwich.
Arata takes a bite, chews, swallows, mostly to buy him some time to figure out how to word this. And eventually he, he shakes his head and he just decides to rip the band-aid off, and he goes, one of Bevin's troop members ended up in the inn's cafe tonight.
Sammy's eyes go wide.
He said he met you, Sammy, but that's beside the point. The thing is, though, is that I tried to get some information from him about what the hell happened between the troop and Bevin, and he...
Did he stonewall you like he did me?
No, well,
Uh,
Arata takes a breath and he like makes a face like, this is going to sound really wild. This guy was Arata just says this guy was drunk when he ended up in the cafe.
blink, blink, blink. Huh? So I do want to say that Arata, you notice immediately that like Sammy's shading was slightly red when he asked if the troop member had stonewalled Arata trying to get information.
Yeah, Arata's just like, this, please bear with me, and it's not going to be easy to hear, but
Alright. And Bevin takes the moment to interrupt.
yeah, Bev?
They they keep their eyes on the little sandwich they have in their hands for just a moment before they turn to you, and their face kind of just looks a bit blank, like slightly serious, but just kind of composed. Uh, and they say, "You don't have to explain. I. This is this is all my fault. So I should
Bevin,
explain it."
Bevin, it is not your fault at all.
But it is.
No,
And
it's
they put
not.
the sandwich down.
Bevin, whatever happened, it wasn't your fault. You're a kid.
if it's but if it's hard for you to talk about, and they turn back to Arata, maybe I should say it instead. After all, and they kind of They poke a little bit at the checkered blanket that they're sitting on. Um, I over I.
I don't want to put that responsibility on you, Bevin.
But if it's about me, then shouldn't it be?
Sometimes it's okay to let other people help and explain things, Bev. And I mean, even though you overheard, apparently, uh, Prada was talking to them.
Um, they kind of they were leading forward this time, looking at both of you, but then they kind of just sit back a bit, and they just kind of look dejectedly at their sandwich, and
Sammy reaches forward and gently takes one of Bevan's hands, and he kind of squeezes it, and he's like, "You can, you can say your side after Arata, though. I'm not saying you don't have to talk at all. I'm just saying it seems like Arata needs to talk about this, okay? You both can talk, and I'll listen."
uh, Bev uh, keeps quiet but nods knowingly.
And if you want to interrupt me, I honestly don't mind.
You guys, you both can take turns. It's gonna be okay. Just gonna be okay.
Sammy's right. You can you can talk first. And they kind of fold their hands together and just kind of sit crisscross applesauce now, just like let's hear it.
Arata leans back and I guess he would. Arata takes off his button up overshirt and he ties the sleeves around his waist because well, he might as well because you're getting comfortable and this is not a comfortable discussion. But as he does, you do see like battle scars on his arms. Um, he sits and he leans back, like leans back on one hand, and he tries to figure out how to like word this. And he goes, I tried asking Laffy about what happened between Bevin and the troop. That that is true. Everything I'm going to say is true, and Genie can vouch for that. He was there and he heard everything, and the cat meows.
And I can talk to cats, so I can be a translator.
Genie kind of like straightens up. Genie's like sitting in his like own little spot on the blanket.
The four corners of the blanket.
Mm-hmm. And Arata Arata takes a breath and he goes, Laffy tried to tell me that he was the one who separated Bevin from the troop. And I didn't believe him. He was lying.
Mix Connie said that they weren't telling the truth in the recording. Sammy does not explain that.
Arata kind of looks at you, but then he goes. Then he just kind of nods and he takes a breath and he goes. So I tried to get more information out of him because this is important to Bevin and I just want to help and I just want to get to the bottom of this, I guess, even though it's like none of my business.
Sammy nods.
Arata just kind of like shrugs and like rubs a hand against his forehead, and he just, the reason Laffy said that he was the one who who did the quote unquote separating, the reason why he said that, the reason why he lied to you, Sammy, and try to like weasel his way out of it, and the reason why he tried to lie to me was because he made a pinky promise to the person who did.
Uh, Sammy's shading immediately shifts to this deep, dark blue purple, and he's staring at you, Arata, with this absolute look of horror on his face.
Yeah, yeah, Arata has this look on his face like, yeah, I expected that would be the reaction.
Meanwhile, Bev has switched from crisscross to just kind of hugging their knees and sitting there, and they're kind of looking over their arms. Like you can only see their eyes just looking from one person to the other. Um,
And
Sammy honestly pulls Bevin into a hug because
huh?
Bevin looks like they need a hug. Sammy needs to hug somebody.
Bev kind of like wriggles for a moment just to be free of hugging their knees to their chest and instead hugging Sammy back.
and Arata kind of chuckles when he sees this happen, but he still has more to say, and he goes. He takes a breath and he goes. Mind you, Laffy was not sober during this conversation, unfortunately. But while we were talking, he. I'm going to be honest, I'm real kind, you know that, and I don't really get the specifics of pinky promises, but in the middle of that conversation, Laffy told me who it was. He broke that promise.
Oh, Sammy's shading has gotten even more like deep and vivid as Arata is talking because oh god. Oh no. Oh stars and colors and voices and character. Oh no.
And when this happens, when Arata says that, uh, Bev's grip on Sammy grows just a little tighter as they're clutching, uh, like their shirt and stuff.
Is he okay? What happened? Is he okay, Arata?
I think he's okay. Again, I don't know the specifics, but like he lost a finger right then and there. And
Oh, Sammy looks like so like just concerned and slightly sick to his stomach and just oh god. Oh god.
yeah, I didn't like it either. But he tried to play it off like he was fine, so I'm just hoping he's okay. He went home, and I told him I would try to talk to you, Sammy, and I was hoping that he would talk to Bevin directly. Talk about a horrible way to find out, am I right? He's trying to play this off, but he is stressed.
Sammy just kind of gently hugs Bevin again, just kind of like a gentle squeeze because, yeah, that is a really awful way to find out about it. And oh, he's so sorry. He's so sorry, Bevin, that you had to find out that way because Oh, the narrators were not kind right then.
Oh no, they were not.
Uh, Bev looks back up at Sammy um, and kind of tilts their head, like you know, they're trying to. They see the differences in your shading, but they don't quite get it just yet.
hmm
They
hmm
they don't they haven't met a lot of color changing tunes, so the whatever color scale you use, they're unfamiliar with.
hmm
Uh, and they they look at you and say, um, it, it it's all right. Um, it's better that I found out than not at all. And they they give like a little shrug, but you can kind of tell that they still seem kind of upset about it, though they're not really saying it.
Sammy kind of gently runs his fingers through Bevan's hair, and then he kind of gives a gentle sigh, and he looks at Bevan and then at Arata, and he's like, "I do have some things I need to talk to you about, but Bev, do you want to talk at all about how you found out and how you're feeling about this before I do? Because I want to make sure you're okay, and it's okay to be upset about this."
Um, Bev looks pensive for a moment, um, and you can tell by the way that they've kind of retracted their arms from the hug that you guys had. Um, they are now fidgeting with their skirt again, and the way that they're just kind of looking off to the side. It, but the, they want to say something, but they're trying to hold back.
Sammy kind of like he's not hugging Bevan anymore because it's clear Bevan doesn't really want to hug anymore, and he kind of just gently rubs Bevan's back, and he kind of ducks his head so he can look more clearly into Bevan's face and not be the towering giant that he is even when he's sitting. And he just is like, "It's okay, Bevan. This place is safe. You can I don't want you to bottle up what's going on inside you because believe me, that's not healthy at all. I've had 8 years of experience to tell you that." He taps Bevin on the nose. "Bottling up your emotions? Not good. It hurts."
Uh, uh, and Bev opens their mouth to say something, and then you hear it. Uh, this gurgling noise. Oh, um, it seems to have come from Bev's stomach.
Sammy laughs and he rubs uh Bevin's hair again. He's like, "Okay, how about you eat some more of that sandwich, okay? There's a lot of food here. It's okay. This is a magic basket."
Um, Bevin uh, looks at Sammy and then looks back at the basket and at the food, uh, and they mumble, "I'm I'm not hungry." But then their stomach lets out another little gurgle.
Oh, Bevin, sweetie. Sammy is just like, "Oh, honey." Oh, he's just like, "Oh, buddy. Oh, kiddo." Like you can just clearly see, like you can, there's a curt, curt in
Errata,
Sammy's chest because, oh, bud.
Errata Arata kind of like he's still leaning back on one arm, and he kind of like looks at Bevin. He's not like smirking, but he does have like a soft half smile as he says, um, "You might not be hungry, but your body definitely is."
And Sammy grabs two of the he basically grabs two sandwich triangles and like puts them on one of the paper plates that the basket came with and basically just drops it into Bevin's lap. And Bevin, if you look over, there's more sandwiches. There are plenty. And Sam just kind of absentmindedly grabs a sandwich triangle and there is like you just blink, smear frame, jump. But the thing is, it's very deliberately a smear frame that's kind of slowed down. So even Arata, you guys don't have to roll perception for this because Sammy's trying to be lighthearted about eating.
Um, and with that, uh, Bev looks down at the plate, seems a little hesitant, but then there's one last little gurgle that comes from their stomach, and they're just like, "Okay, no, I gotta eat." So they they grab one of the sandwiches, and they just take. They have no reservation now. They just take a big bite out of the sandwich.
Sammy's shading has shifted back to a yellow at this point. He is pleased.
They chew for a little bit, and then take another bite, and then another one, and then you notice, both of you, as they continue eating, they start tearing back up.
There's
But they,
another
they keep they keep
there's
eating.
another cracking noise in Sammy's heart.
Oh, Bev.
Sammy is just like, you've been out here all alone for a while, haven't you, since the carrot caper? Haven't you,
Bev,
Bev?
Bev finishes chewing, and they they very quickly take their arm and they just like wipe the tears away real quick. Um, but they grab the other half of the sandwich. But before they take a bite, they nod, and then they
Arata
keep
looks to
eating.
Sammy.
Sammy's looking at Arata!
When he looks at me.
Arata is looking at Sammy, and he just goes, "I can probably talk to the boss and see if he can let me borrow another mattress."
No.
If if you have if you
Bev?
Sammy pulls out uh he looks contemplative for a moment and then he pulls out a painting. It's a painting of a house. And he says quietly, I'm probably going to need this back for a bit, but if you can't keep Bevin with your apartment there with and I could hang this up in my apartment and you guys could stay there for a bit. It's a magic transportable apartment.
Um, Bev looks between Arata and Sammy, and then at the painting, which looks very nice, but they 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 kind of they stare at it for a moment and take another bite of their sandwich. Um, and they, they they look hesitant to really say anything. Um,
Bev, it's not Bev, it's it's not indefinite, and you won't be staying there all the time or whatever, but I can't stand the thought of you being alone and hungry like that.
You don't
But
deserve that.
alone. I'm not alone. And they they reach in their front pocket and they pull out Talkie. I have Talkie with me. It's okay. Um, and I I kind of just I they look a little sheepish for a moment. Kind of forgot to eat. That's all. Cause and they reach back into their overall pocket, and they pull out uh like like a partially folded little tube. Um, and you can tell on the side of it, it's a tube of stardust that they got from the shop, Glorp shop. Um, um, I've been very careful. Um, I just eat a little bit of it at a time, and I'm okay. And
Oh,
they 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 try to give a reassuring smile, but I doubt either of you are very reassured.
Arata is not convinced.
neither is Sammy, and he.
Even
Oh,
Jeannie is staring at this like, oh my god.
Sammy's just like internally going, Uncle Luca wouldn't want this. This isn't supposed to be a meal replacement. And Sammy just he's looking at Bevin. He's looking at Bevin, and he's just like he sets aside the remains. Like he kind of dusts off the crumbs from his hands, and he very slowly, very gently takes Bevin's hands into his, and he's still kind of like he basically is like crouched down, so his like elbows are on his knees. Like he's making himself very small so Bevin can look at his face. And he very, very gently holds Bevin's hands in his, and he's Bevin, I was on the street for 8 years. I don't want that for you. You don't. No one deserves to be without a home, without someone else there to make sure that you're okay because you're younger than I was when I found myself on the streets. And he gently squeezes Bevin's hands, and he looks so desperately sad for you, Bevin. You don't even need to know why his shading is blue as he looks at you. He gently, gently is just holding your hands, and you deserve to have people looking out for you. And Taki is amazing, and it's great that you're not alone, but Taki can't help remind you to eat all the time or make sure that you've got a nice bed or a roof over your head.
Or someone
And we
somewhere
just
to
want to
go at the
help.
end of the day.
We want to make sure you're okay, Bev. And he leans back and he his shading has shifted to a bluish purple, like not the same deep, dark, rich color that he had when he looked so abjectly horrified about the breaking of a pinky promise that someone had been forced into. It's more of like this lilac edged blue as he looks at Arata and then Bevin, and he quietly says, "There is a private inspector who basically dragged me into investigating Laffy, and the investigator was hired by your troop, Bevin, to find you. But there are some incredibly red flags, I think is the saying. Um, I am extremely concerned about what is going on with this troop of yours because I just learned that from Arata that there's someone in your troop that separated you in a way that it's led to you getting hurt, Bev.
But they pull their hands away for a moment. But I'm not hurt. I'm pretty okay. And you know, and they put their voice down to a little whisper. You know that secret place that I told you about?
Sammy nods.
It's it's kind of like that one, and they point to the abandoned theater. Um, the one that we're behind, I think. Is this like a
Yep.
backyard?
Yeah, this is like
Um,
the courtyard of the theater.
Arata's just, oh no, this kid's been staying in an abandoned building.
Yeah, Sammy has that exact oh Bev
I mean,
expression.
no one uses it, and it's kind of fun dancing on stage. Though it's big for me. And they look a little hopeful. Like, did I fix it? Is this okay?
Oh, Sammy's just internally doing the prayer hands. Like he hasn't done it externally, but that's his mood right now is just the internal prayer hands of oh geez, how do you oh my heart.
um, they pick up Taki. And I can start setting alarms and stuff so that I don't forget. To eat, I mean. Um, and Tataki's pretty good at that. They start hitting a couple buttons as they're talking. Though I don't know why they hired a de- detective. It seems kind of like a waste of money. And they stop typing for a second.
Arata has. I think at this point, yeah, Arata is like. He has this look on his face like, um. He might have fallen back into silent pro tag mode for a moment. And like there's this look in his eyes like he's thinking of something, or more accurately listening to someone who isn't actually there, um before he blinks and he goes, they probably hired one because they're worried about you, but at the same time, Bevin. Arata stops himself and he kind of just rubs his forehead, and this one's not easy to say. There is no way for him to like find a good way to say this. What's that, 19?
So Bevin kind of picks up on how like uneasy you're feeling. That was an insight, but that wasn't specifically for you.
Oh.
Um, uh, Bev kind of sets Taki down for a minute, like sits down, and then just kind of stares off in the distance for a minute, and then as if as if they were waiting for this moment, they just start bawling. they
Oh.
Oh.
they 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 care about me. I, I'm sorry. I didn't I didn't think they wanted me anymore.
Oh, Bevin.
Oh,
And they're just
bad.
wiping furiously at their face to try to make it stop,
Group
but they
hug.
just keep crying.
Group hug.
Yep. There is an instant surge of just, oh, okay, we are hugging the crying child now. We are hugging them because,
Even Genie is trying to get in and trying to like rub his head against like Bevin's legs.
And Bev, Bev is still kind of crying a bit because, as you can tell with how much had been rolling, they really had been trying to hide what they were feeling. But
hmm
that last roll was an insight on themselves. Like, hey, hold on, you are upset. Why don't you?
hmm
So it just kind of like broke out of them.
yeah.
Um, and you just hear like a few shaky breaths and hiccups as they're trying to compose themselves, but it just keeps on going. Like you turned on a faucet, it's not gonna turn off for a little bit.
Oh, oh, Bev. There's so much going on. I'm so sorry.
I should I should be the one that's sorry.
Don't be sorry for crying like this. It's okay. Just let it out.
Sometimes you just need a good cry.
Crying is good for you.
They 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 try to catch their breath a little bit, but they're still kind of shaky. But
Mm.
that's that's not what Terry says.
Who?
Terry. And they they rustle around in their pocket, their front pocket, and they pull out. It's both familiar to you now.
hmm
The picture of their and they take a look over at it and they point to a tall figure in the back, and they say, that's Terry. Um, he's and they kind of wipe at their face as they point with their other hand. He he's really strong and cool, and uh, he's said it. You shouldn't cry, not in front of other people.
Oh, Sammy has things to say to this Terry.
So does
Several,
Arata.
several things, but he just visibly just sighs and gives Bevin a little squeeze, and he says, sometimes cool people can be wrong because crying, being emotional in front of people it's okay. Because if you try to suppress those emotions, Bev, that hurts. It's turning you into silence, and silence has teeth that will rip and tear into your soul.
Uh,
And you don't need to roll insight on that because it is very obvious that Sammy is speaking from experience. and he doesn't want that for Bev.
And and Bev's listening because they nod along a bit, but they're keeping their eyes on the picture. And in a low voice, they say, maybe Laffy was right.
About what?
Oh.
Maybe they're not good for me. That's that's what he said. And
Arata,
he looks.
Arata kind of shifts uncomfortably, but he'll say this anyway, and he looks to Sammy and he goes, Laffy said that when he was a kid, the troop he was with wasn't the greatest, and he said that he started seeing some things with Bevin's troop that didn't settle right, and he was trying to get Bevin to someone else, someone who could take care of Bev.
Sammy looks at Arata and then down at the troop and then at Bevin, and
You
again,
like
you guys don't need to roll insight on this because Sammy is an open book. He looks conflicted and a little confused because there's stuff that he's thinking about in regards to Bevin and some stuff in his own past that he's also thinking about. And he's trying to reconcile the two because there's the warring instinct to protect and this other thing in him that is saying something different.
Arata Arata bites down on like his lower lip and he thinks for a moment and he shakes his head and he says, we all have the right to decide who our family is. And that goes for everyone, even me, even Sammy, and even you, Bevin. I don't know what's good for you, and I'm not going to tell you what's good for you because again, I'm an outsider in all of this, but it's in the end, Bevin, it's up to you to decide what you want.
And Sammy, it looks like he's come to like at least a little decision as he looks at you, Bev, and he quietly says, if even if they're bad for you, it's okay to still love them. It's okay to still treasure the good stuff.
Arata
But
nods.
he's looking a little, even though he's taller than the normal tune, it, Sammy looks kind of small as he's speaking.
And Bev uh, has not once taken their eyes off of the troop. They kind of hold up the photo in front of them, looking at each of them. And in this well lit, calm place, uh, both of you can see just a myriad of different people. You know,
Hmm.
there's there's the one that they pointed at, um, called Terry that kind of looks like a strongman esque person. You've got this older woman in like a fur coat. You've got this younger looking girl with like ribbons in her hair. You got this taller pirate looking esque character and a cowboy looking character. They're strangely two people in fencing outfits, but they're there too. Uh, you also see Laffy in the photo, um, as well as a mime and someone very tall wearing a kimono. All of these, all of them, and they nod. I like all of them. I've been with them for so long. They're pretty much the only family I have, you know? So they take a breath and they nod. At the very least, I should see them again. Because maybe Laffy was wrong. I don't know. They set the photo back down. You know, actually, I thought Laffy didn't like me very much. But I was wrong about that. So,
Sammy
you
takes a deep breath and he's like, when you do see them again, you don't have to go alone. We could go with you.
I wouldn't mind coming along either. And I'm sure Jeannie wouldn't mind either.
and Bev nods again. But then you hear Taki go, doo 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 doo. Huh? They pick up Taki, uh, and it says, spell the word caution. Caution. Mm. I don't know if I'm up for spelling right now, Taki. But they they start trying to spell the word caution.
Yeah, I think Talkie's telling you that if you do go see them again, you should be careful.
Because I think even if the rest of the troop is okay and safe for you, there is. Didn't you say there was someone else that forced Laffy into a pinky promise
Arata nods.
and separated Bevin like that? Bev, we really have to be careful about this because there's something up with your troop because the rest may care, but there's someone out there that doesn't.
Um, and as they finish spelling the word caution, uh, they place Taki back down and glance again at the photo. And when you said that, you can see that they have a little bit of fear in their eyes. They're apprehensive. And I don't know. You have the feeling that maybe they too have their own hunch.
Sammy
But
looks at Arata and he quietly says, Arata, you said Laffy broke the pinky promise and told you who it was.
He said Rocky did it.
Um,
Oh, I'm so sorry, Bevin.
so Bev, so Bev hears this, um, and you can tell that they've tried to cover it up just a bit, but you still see it anyway. You see them kind of flinch in realization just for a moment before trying to smooth it back down. Um, but then Taki starts talking again. Spell the word detective. They pick it back up. Oh, the detective. Um,
Arata kind of straightens back up and he looks to Sammy again and he goes, "What's the name of the detective you were talking to?"
Sammy he makes a face because remember how Arata, you remember how Sammy had said he'd had a couple few days, and he is he kind of just brings his hands up to his face in the kind of prayer hands motion, and then kind of puts them down slightly, kind of like the so motion,
uh,
boy.
and he says, "Yeah, they're the Inspector Shirley plant, and
Arata, let's. Can I get an insight real quick?
okay, 12."
Okay. Arata lets out a breath, uh, and you're not even sure when he started holding it, but you get the impression that he was expecting you to say somebody else, and now that it isn't who he thought it was, he seems to relax a little bit.
Sammy does not look relaxed at all. He's got this really complicated look on his face, and he says, "Their name's very accurate because they're a telepathic plant."
Like Arata makes that noise.
um, and with that noise, you also hear a doo 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 from Taki, and you Bev picks Taki back up, and they say, "Spell the word secret."
Sammy grimaces because, yeah, that was a secret. Peck. But he had such a.
It's been a couple of days.
but but meanwhile, Bevin has actually kind of lit up, like their faces lit up in excitement. You're a plant?
And Sammy immediately starts kind of waving his hands and is like, but they don't want you. They don't want people to know that they. And he rubs his face, so he's just like, "I'm gonna have to apologize to them because I just blabbed."
And Bev kind of stands up. Can we go see them? They
Yeah,
just look really excited.
yes, we can, but oh, it's kind of
Maybe
maybe
not
not
right now.
tonight. Maybe not tonight. We've all had a very exhausting night. But tomorrow, how about I take you to them tomorrow, okay? Because they really would like to meet you and make sure you're okay.
Bev calms back down and gives a short nod. And you don't have to insight roll this, but you can now tell their face looks pretty tired again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's been a lot.
Sammy just kind of wraps his arm around Bevin's shoulder and just kind of gives a like in a half hug, and just kind of gives a gentle squeeze. Because he
And
gets it.
Bev just giggles a little.
He gets it. He gets it. And like kind of looks at Arata and Bev, and he is just like, I haven't used my painted house yet. Want to want to test it out with me and we can have a sleepover tonight?
Arata kind of chuckles and he goes, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
uh, Bev has gone from tired to ecstatic. They're like, you said sleepover, and they just are, they're like, a sleepover?
Mm-hmm.
We could, we could sleep in, wait, in the house? And they
Mm-hmm.
point at the painting.
Yep. Uh, um, Sammy gets up from his half hug with Bevin, and he grabs the painting that he had set aside when, oh, there are hugs that need to happen. There are hugs that need to happen, and he kind of looks around and then kind of sees a branch, kind of like a low hanging branch, kind of a little bit farther. Actually, no, he goes to a wall that's pretty clear of shrubbery and stuff, and he hangs it up, and then take it. He one sec, I need to pull out a thing. Get into the right window. D20, D10. He pulls out this silver goopy key, and he puts it against this painted house's door and turns it. And when you guys blink next, the painting isn't there anymore. There is this gorgeous painted cottage where the painting had been hanging against the wall. And Sammy pulls open the door, and he turns to look at the both of you, and his shading is bright, excited yellow, and he's like, "Come on, let's check this out."
Bev is just in awe. They're just like, what just happened? But then when you open the door, uh, Bev throws away any caution and just runs right in.
uh, Arata's kind of looking at the blanket and and the picnic set, and he's just like, "Should we clean this up first?"
Sammy looks at it, and then back at the house, and then back at the picnic blanket, and he's like, "We can clean this up later." Come on, Arata.
All right, fine. Arata kind of just laughs, and he like follows, and he whistles for Genie, and the cat like bounds after him.
And as you guys enter, the atmosphere is really, really nice and cozy and warm. Uh, and what is Bevin and Arata's favorite smells?
Oh gosh, it's very specific. Um, Arata's favorite smell is very specific, but it's so personal to him. The man who taught him how to make coffee brews it in such a way that is just so good that he can always identify it as Satoru's coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this warm, kind of homey kind of feeling, and Arata's just like, oh no, I'm getting homesick.
Yeah.
um, as for Bev, um, I mean, they they kind of like all sorts of smells, but uh, You can also kind of smell, along with the coffee. Gosh, now I want some coffee.
Same hat.
Um, you also smell like what seems like there's this vanilla kind of cinnamon, but it's kind of got like a burnt end to it, as well
Mm-hmm.
as something floral that you can't quite place. Uh, and Bev's just kind of like, hey, it's it's nice here.
And in addition to those smells, you guys smell a hint of fine wood smoke and lavender and old paper and pine needles. And Sammy kind of goes, "Oh, oh, okay. Oh, this is nice." And I feel like there is a little kitchen in the living room that like you kind of like the door opens up to, and then there are uh three offshoot rooms, and then a little bit farther away there is an extra room. So four rooms in total, and it's all very homey and kind of slightly rustic. And yeah, this is Sammy's painted house.
It's
Bev was excited. Sorry, go ahead.
it's very nice, and Arata has this look on his face that's like, yeah, you can tell he's homesick, but he actually kind of likes this, and he just kind of
Mhm.
No.
he he probably like finds a place to like just sit down in the living room and
Mhm.
like
There's probably some couches. I'm gonna have to actually sit down and design this now,
Whoops.
whoop.
but there is definitely a very comfy couch for Arata to plop down on.
You know, Arata's probably going to like spend a little bit of time like fiddling with his clothes and whatever. Oh shoot, I forgot I made him take off his overshirt. Oops. Those scars are on display now. Oops. Anyway.
Okay.
I mean, Sammy's not gonna pry. He has his own scars.
And Bev was just overtaken by by everything. Currently now it was excitement for, oh, we get to go in this neat paint house and just go and sleep over.
Hmm.
But now that excitement's kind of worn off, and you can kind of tell they're standing in such a way that when you're first over like a friend's house and you go in and you're afraid to like touch anything because you
Hmm.
don't really know what's okay to touch. Like they're exhibiting that.
Sammy just kind of reaches up, kind of walks up to Bev and kind of just gently places a hand on small of Bev's back, and is just like, "Why don't you explore? It's okay."
And they look up at Sammy. Really?
Mm-hmm.
They're, they 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 look back out at the kind of the living room area for a little bit, and then they just take off. They run into the kitchen and they're looking around and they you can tell this kid is very curious, just looking at everything.
And like, just because I don't have everything planned out and stuff, I'm just gonna say, they find a fully set up kitchen. There's the living room that has a ton of like couches, and like then also like there's a huge pile of like pillows and blankets and stuff in the corner for like pillow nests and blanket forts and stuff like that. And then as they go exploring into the four rooms, you Bevin discovers that they are basically four identical, really cozy looking bedrooms.
uh, Bev has put aside their reservations once more, and they go. They. I don't know if you want me to roll. Probably not. But they just jump and just land like face first onto the bed, whatever bed it is.
It's like it's the comfiest bed that Bevin has ever flopped on.
Oh, and gosh, Bev just kind of like sinks in a bit.
hmm
uh,
Like I just feel like Sammy's like kind of just been like slowly trailing behind Bevin just to make sure that they don't get like into anything that could hurt them. And like then he just kind of leans up against the side of the bedroom door that Bevin has just basically claimed as their own with the bed. And he's smiling so softly at you, Bevin. Like he's so happy that you're so ecstatic to be exploring this place and that Sammy was able to give you that respite of something happy to look after, look forward to finish this night off.
do you want to make a one last perception check?
Yes, I do. Oh, nat
Nice.
20.
Uh,
Did Bevin pass out? Did Bevin pass out?
in a word, yes, yes, they did. As you're leaning in the doorway, you can kind of just hear all of a sudden this soft snoring, and you could see that Bevin is just knocked out. Like they've had a long day, and their body had just kind of gone limp, and they're just kind of like they're out of it now.
hmm Sammy goes into the room and he gently just takes off Bevan's shoes and then kind of just gently moves Bevan in and under and tucked into this bed. And
Um,
then he kind of just reaches down and presses a kiss against Bevan's forehead
uh,
because he loves this kid, okay?
oh, um, I gotta tell you, I won't make you roll for it, but those shoes were a pain because they were ballet slippers. So
Mm-hmm.
they have that like those ribbons attached to them, so you had to untie that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god.
But you got it. But you got it
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
6-year-old is not very good at tying bows. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of just pull one end and it kind of just all comes off. But
Yeah, like
they do not stir. They are just out for the count.
mm,
But
yeah.
after that little kiss on the forehead, you do see a little smile kind of just creep over their face.
Yeah, and just Sammy kind of smooths a hand over Bevan's hair one last time, and then he walks into the kitchen and he's going to. Oh, he fumbled. Okay, here we go.
Oh,
He fumbled the.
as we finish up, what are they gonna?
Okay, he gets out. Oh dear. He's in the kitchen, thankfully. Oh, wait, actually, no. He pulls out a stuffed crab plushie and he kind of just blinks at it before smiling, giving it a hug, and then putting it back in its sleeve. So,
Oh,
so let's see where.
let's try that again.
Yep, D10. Another five.
Okay.
F.
I can imagine Arata like from his vantage point, just seeing.
Oh no, Arata. Oh god. Oh, poor Arata. Arata has a lot on his mind, and he's sitting on the couch, and he was like readjusting things in his bag, but now he's just sitting there, zoned out, and with like
Mm-hmm.
this. It really distant expression on his face.
Mm-hmm. And so Arata doesn't really see this, but for the audience's information, Sammy pulled out a block of cheese, and there is an excited squeak from Sammy's hood, and White Mouse pokes his head out from the hood and just like squeak, 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 squeak,
Oh no, there's a cat!
squeak. And Sammy hands the cheese up to Squeakers. And then Squeakers looks down at where Genie is and goes, squeak! And then ducks right back into the hood of Sammy's hood. My gosh, Sammy! You keep fumbling!
Oh,
Oh my
poor
god.
Sammy!
The scene.
Arata might not be paying attention, but now Genie is.
And he pulls out some ticket stubs, and his shading is starting to turn a light red as he stares at these tickets, and he shoves them back in with a quiet mutter of Grolix as he
Oh my god.
again.
Oh my god.
Please just give the boy a break.
And then he pulls out a bouquet of hibiscus, orange lilies, and black dahlias, and he looks at this, shading incredibly gray.
Oh.
And then he just throws it over his shoulder because what the heck is going on? He just wants one damn thing, and he finally pulls out a box of Ghibellian tea. And he sets about making 2 cups of this tea, and he brings one. He basically has 2 teacups in his hand, and he brings one. He is holding them both, and he walks over to where Arata is sitting at the couch, and he sits down and hands Arata this cup of tea. And he just sighs.
Yeah, like as you hand this cup of tea over to him, Arata like finally snaps out of his like daze, and he shakes his head and like he's shaking off whatever thought he was having, and he takes the tea with the quiet. Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah. Stars and rainbows above and below. And he just takes a sip of his tea because, oh gosh, this has been a night.
Yeah.
Arata's had a night. And Bevin's had a time. Everybody's had a time.
Yeah, Arata still has that like contemplative look, and he takes a sip, and he tries to like let it help him relax a little bit. He's glad that he got through talking about it, but like there is definitely something else on his mind. And well, Sammy wouldn't know about Lupine, but Lupine is basically telling him to get something off his chest, and so
I feel like Sammy kind of turns and like he tilts his head a little and he's like, "Do you need to talk some more?"
yeah, I guess so. And he does kind of sound like you can actually hear that he sounds upset.
Sammy just kind of gently leans against Arata, kind of in a, "Hey, I'm here. I'm listening."
See, me, Avi, am very emotional and very attuned to the emotions of my characters. So while
Handshake.
Arata might not be crying, I definitely am. So
Oh,
I'm like trying to like calm down.
oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Take your time. I
Yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah.
you. Sammy has made me cry several times.
Okay.
So I feel you.
Yeah. So Arata's quiet not because he doesn't want to talk about it, but because he's not sure how Sammy's going to react, and two, it's kind of a loaded story. But
Mhm.
Arata Arata takes a breath and he just says, I didn't have the I didn't have the greatest parents growing up. When I was, well, this is kind of a long story, but the long and short of it is that I was accused and convicted of a crime I didn't do, and I was found guilty, and my parents didn't even care, and they used my probation as an excuse to kick me out of the house. And just everything Bevin's going through. God, Bevin is so much younger than I am, Sammy.
And Sammy, he sets his cup down in his lap and he pulls Arata into a one-armed hug and he quietly says, I didn't have the best parents either. And I I um I'm happy said some things that made me think a bit because I know my parents hurt me and that I hated that, but they're my parents, and yet I hear all of the stuff that's happened to you or one of my boyfriends and Bevin, and I get so angry and I look at myself and I don't understand why I don't do that for myself. And Bevin's so small. They're I was 10 when I had to run away, and I don't even know if my parents are alive anymore. I don't know what happened that night. They just told me to run and I ran. And all I know is just Bevin and you don't deserve that. That's all I really know. Is you guys didn't deserve it.
We're a bunch of kids in an unfair world, Sammy. But we've got each other.
Sammy nods. And his arm wrapped around you, Arata, tightens a bit and he's just yeah. And
Arata, with one hand, wipes at his eyes, and the other hugs back.
Mm-hmm. And he says, what you said about choosing family, that's true. Because Prismatone's my mom now. And I have Gil and Chifley and Coda, and I have you and Bev. And I have all my other friends. I'm happy here, Arata. I never thought I'd be happy like this, ever. Even in Ghibli. And Arata, you have me. You're my friend. You're my friend, and I care a lot about you.
God, usually I'm the one who says that.
Sammy giggles a little. It's a little teary because Sammy is a sympathetic crier. He's a
Two
sympathetic crier,
emotional boys.
and he's having emotions himself, and just has been a wild, wild ride for him because he's he's tripped over a realization, but he doesn't know how to unwrap this nugget of realization that he's stumbled over and stuff. So he's sitting here going, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? I'm having emotions that I was not expecting.
And, Arata takes a deep breath. And. Are you going to be extra, Arata? I think you are. I think you are. I really think he is. Hang on, I need to see what his expertise is in. I know he has it in acrobatics. Hang on. Okay. He doesn't have it in this, but he does do a thing, if I remember the proficiency. Almost typed the wrong command. Okay, yeah, it wasn't a special trick, but it was a sleight of hand check, and he was going to do a really silly trick, but he takes a breath and he goes, "Thanks, Sammy." And as he moves out of the hug, he slips another chocolate coin. It appears seemingly from nowhere, but with a 12, you get the impression that he somehow got it in his sleeve. Yeah, and he goes, "I'm also here if you wanna talk about whatever's on your mind too. It's the least I can do." And he's offering the coin to you, Sammy.
Sammy takes the coin, and his face is extremely soft as he does, and he takes it and looks at the coin, and he chews on his lip, and he sets the cup of tea down on I feel like there's a coffee table in front of the couch, and he sets it down and he sighs and says, "It like I said, my parents weren't the best. So, but they were my parents. I'm just sitting here seeing Bev and seeing their hope for the troop. I'm scared for them, Arata. I'm terrified. Because even if the rest of the troop is okay, this Rocky person, they. I'm scared that when they find out that Bevin didn't just magically disappear, that their behavior is going to get worse. And what if they really do end up hurting Bev?
We won't let that happen.
And Sammy just nods because this kid is so dear to Sammy's heart. He loves Bevin so much. And it's clear as day. Arata, you can see this kind of steely determination come over Sammy's face. And he, throughout this entire evening, he's looked incredibly soft and like what you would expect more of a cleric to be. But as you look at him, Arata, you notice that his mouth is bared and his teeth are sharp. And he looks dangerous in this moment.
Arata also has this fierce and determined look on his face. And this look on his face that has gotten him into trouble more than once. Um but he notices your expression and Arata kind of smirks and he says, if Rocky tries anything, he won't get through us.
He'd have to kill me first. And it's heavily implied that Sammy would kill Rocky first before Rocky could kill Sammy.
Oh gosh.
Because I'm sorry, this entire conversation has triggered Sammy's barbarian protective side.
Oh.
And in that case, one last insight roll.
And this will be the final thing.
Yeah, with the 13, that look, that fierce and determined look with that smirk, Sammy, you get the impression that Arata might be planning something.
Sammy kind of like turns to look at Arata and raises an eyebrow. But like before we could actually go into whatever Arata's planning and stuff, I feel like that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
Like just kind
We
of
just
like
get
that,
this.
like
We just get
oh,
this fade out, like,
oh, the boys
what
are
are they gonna
conspiring
plan
now.
next?
The boys are conspiring now.
Oh, yeah, I agree. That's probably where we should end for this one. But
Oh boy.
oh boy. Uh thank you very much for listening and for you two for playing. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one, right?
Hell
Yes,
yeah.
this was amazing. Thank you, Wick, for
Uh,
It was
just
so fun.
oh, this was so
all
good. This is so good.
right. Say bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.